Hi everybody, it's Andy again. I'm just going back through some old presentations that I'd given at different forums, and I thought I'd do a recording of this one that I did a while back with our friends at Code Clan. So this is all about your technical portfolio and how you can build it up when you're trying to get a job, and could be in data, could be in software, but basically any of that kind of area. So the suggestions that I'm going to give are from the perspective of someone who's often a hiring manager and interviewing people. So this is just some of my tips and tricks. So let's go. So I suppose the first thing to cover is that really going through your career is all about starting this cycle of you get your first job, you get your foot on the ladder, and then you can leverage that to get other jobs. And as you go through it, you can branch out your experiences and pivot in the direction you want and really develop the career that you want. But obviously it can be hard in some cases to kickstart this cycle. So sometimes it's hard when you don't have really official experience to fall back on. So it's your first job in a certain area. Your experience might not be quite matched to what you want. So you want a different job, you want to pivot a little bit. And you really want to make sure that you also can show in an interview that you know how to do this specific job as well. And that can even be hard if you have had a job in the same area, but you maybe don't have anything that's kind of very clear, good examples of evidence. You want to build that up, or you want to just kind of make it a bit more of an easier ride for you when you go in for an interview. So one of the ways that you can do this is really start working on your portfolio, your own technical portfolio, but also your more general portfolio, which can include things like blogs, videos, etc. But really what I'm going to focus on here is a bit more on the technical side first, and then talk about that more general stuff in a second. So I'll just start off here with a little bit of story. So I think a huge part of getting a job can be confidence. And can be confidence built upon having that portfolio and knowing that you really have the knowledge to get the job that you want. So for me, I got my first job working in data and data science by just kind of rocking up to a startup in Glasgow, Streambar, who are now doing really well, and just saying to them, look, I think I'm pretty good. I think you can use me. How can I help? And the reason I had the confidence to do that was pretty much because I had built up that technical portfolio while studying, while I was doing my PhD. So I'd actually spent the time sort of really making sure that I had something to show that meant I wasn't just talking a good game. I was able to kind of back that up with examples. So I knew that some of the things I'd worked on could be adapted to that company and what they wanted to do. And as well, it meant the company then trusted me and they weren't taking as much of a risk if they wanted to hire me. So that's a really good reason for having that technical portfolio behind you. So one of the main ways that I'll talk about now to have a technical portfolio and share it is to use GitHub and put code examples and technical projects up on that. And a question that I'm always asked by people is, should I only show finished work or stuff that I know really inside out, like absolutely that I can completely nail? And I would always say no, absolutely not. Just show something. Anything is better than nothing. So you'll have heard this phrase quite a lot, that perfect is the enemy of the good. I really believe that. So if you never put up stuff that you weren't 100% sure or you were kind of just learning about, you'd really never have anything to show. I don't know anything 100%. I like to think I know a lot about, or I know little about a lot of things. So that's kind of shown in my technical portfolio as well. And I think you should be comfortable doing that. You should be happy to just showcase you've tried different things, you've explored. That's a good thing to show as well. So for example, here's a little screenshot of, this is quite a while back, but what my GitHub used to look like. But you can go find me on GitHub, it's AndyMix629. And really, if someone says they have a GitHub on their CV, that's a big tick for me. Or equivalent Bitbucket, etc. But if they have some sort of mechanism for showcasing some technical work they've done, and it might not be a lot, but showcasing something, then that's a big tick for me. But I will then go and look at it. So just be prepared for that. And I'm not going to go through it with a fine-tooth comb and really analyze it and try and tear apart any claims you've made. But what I'm going to do is kind of check for some simple, basic, high-level things. So first of all, have you actually used this solution you're talking about? So if you say you've got a Bitbucket or a GitHub and I log on and there's no repositories, there's no code, then I know you've just put that to pay lip service to a video like this, when really I'm looking just to see, is there some sort of interaction with the solution? So you can see here that basically I've got a number of repositories, I've pinned some, I've got contribution activity going on. I'll then take another sort of layer down from that and think, what have they pinned, or what are they particularly proud of? What do they want to draw my eye to? So I had some a while back here where I was trying to show off, look, I've given public presentations. So there's presentations in there. I've played around with different ML algorithms, I've played around with Spark, and I've also learned some Scala. So I just kind of pinned those there to really draw out and emphasize those learnings that I was building up. But it could be anything, and it might just be one or two, it might be quite a few, but you can pin on these things. I would really encourage you to do that. And then finally, I'll just be saying, like, have you used this recently? And I'm not saying, like, if you haven't used it in a month, I'm going to be really annoyed, but I'll just kind of see, what was it you were working on most recently? Is there anything interesting there that I can look at, maybe ask you about in an interview? And I think that's all positive, because you're kind of setting the tone of the conversation when you come to interview as a technical contributor. You're saying, here's my portfolio, here's what I want to talk about, here's what I'm good at, or what I'm learning to be good at. Let's talk about it. And that's good. That helps you in an interview. You've really set the scene, the ball's in your court. And I just think that's such a positive thing to leverage. And then kind of the checklist continuing down, I might even, if I'm kind of liking the look of the repository, the technical portfolio so far, I might start asking, have they written anything in the language they've told me they know? So if you say you're Python and you say you're intermediate or an expert, I'm going to expect some Python in this repository. I'm going to expect some Python somewhere, at least in a light touch sort of way. I'm going to see how much you've actually written, or if you just forked, because it's very easy to go fork 10 repositories from someone else and never touch it. So I kind of check that, because I know I've done that. The reason I've got 52 repositories is a lot of them are forked, but a lot of them are stuff I've added to or built myself. And then I'll kind of try and check a little bit at a very high level, do the projects you have tie in with your stated level experience. So I think that's, again, not something I'm going to interrogate to death, but something that's good to see, and is just really some bonus points. I think the first 3 points I mentioned, is this generally used? Are they sort of who they say they are? That's more important. These are really bonus points to have on top of it, I think, if you can set that piece of the conversation as well. And then for you, I think as an interviewee, when you want to leverage this technical portfolio going for a job interview or making an application, you should really start thinking on your side, how do you want to dictate that conversation? What do you want to showcase and highlight? So think, which projects have you done or started that you can talk about all day? What are you really excited about and interested in? So it could be like, here I started a little project trying to look at machine theory of mind paper from Google that was really interesting. I could talk about that for quite a long time. But it could be anything. It could be a simple dashboard, could just be a Python script. It doesn't matter. What matters is really, is there something in there you can sort of really say, this is a good showcase of where I'm at. If there's anything that you can draw on that's relevant to your application or your desired role, that's really good as well. So if you're applying to be a Scala developer and you have anything in Scala, that's obviously good to call out. Again, not completely necessary, but just always a nice positive, nice bonus. And then, are there any particular technologies you've used that are good to highlight and that you can discuss in depth? So thinking less about programming languages, more like, is there database technologies you've used, or is there sort of cloud-based technologies you've used that you've got evidence of? That's always good as well to have under your kind of under your sleeve, and really think, how can you start bringing that into the conversation as well? We'll just show you as a really all-rounded technologist. So I think just some tips taking all that together. You might kind of worry about, where should I start? How do I even begin? You've mentioned a lot of stuff there. I think the first thing is start small. Everybody understands that you're human, you've got commitments, especially now, there's been such a challenging time with the pandemic. So you have to go and build some sort of enterprise data platform in your spare time. You just really have to have something there. So even if it's a 20-line Python script that gets some data and does some plots, that's way better than nothing. And that's really good to see, and something you can talk about and leverage in those interviews. And then I would say as well, when you're starting small, get excited about something, do something you're really keen on. Don't sort of force yourself. Like, if you don't want to learn Scala, don't force yourself to learn Scala, because you're just not going to keep going with it. You're also not going to enjoy any job you get with that. So really focus on the stuff that you're passionate about, you're really keen on improving, and just get examples of that up there and show that. And that'll just help make it a bit easier to spend time on it. And then finally, I mentioned at the top of the call, or the top of the presentation, a little bit about how your portfolio can be much more wide than just your technical portfolio. So I think be aware as well, you can bring to this whole job discussion things like blog posts, YouTube videos. You could talk about presentations you've given or the ones you're going to give. So I put presentations like this one. The slides for this are up on my GitHub under presentations repository. I've written on Medium, I've written on LinkedIn. It's really important just to show that as well. I'm not saying, again, you build this huge empire of text, but you really just want to show that you're sort of interested in something of relevance. It might not even be of relevance. It could be you blog about some sort of sport or something. And that might still be useful, but I think in terms of technical chops, it does really help you to show that you've thought about the particular aspect or role you're interested in. So again, if you're interested in Python and data science, if you've written something on that or presented on it, it's again a major tick for anyone who wants to hire you. So I'll just finish by saying that some general kind of thoughts more widely that come into my mind as a hiring manager. So your portfolio is only a really small part of the story, and at the end of the day, you just need to remember that people hire people. So it's all about how you kind of engage with people, and it's not saying that you have to be a really charismatic, amazing talker, or you have to give really brilliant speeches. But I think what's often good to see is someone's passionate or excited about what they want to do or what they're doing. They have a bit of hunger to come and learn and really get stuff done. They have that can-do attitude. They're keen to roll up their sleeves and sort of build something with you. I often kind of weigh quite heavily on it. Is the person friendly or kind? Do they seem like they would get on with the existing team? Do they seem like a nice person to have around the office or on Zoom calls? That can often be quite important. And then I think a bit of hope, a bit of optimism about what you're trying to do. I think in technology in particular, some of the spaces we work in, say machine learning, data science for me in particular, if you're not optimistic about what you're trying to do or hopeful that you can make a difference with that, then you've kind of stymied yourself a little bit before you've begun. So it's often good to see that optimism coming through in an interview. So I'll just finish there and say best of luck, any of you out there who are looking for jobs, and thanks very much.